Part 67. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 661. When this announcement came out, some people were happy and some were sad. Gu Qingfen was at home, watching this scene, and his lungs were about to explode. However, he had no way to stop it now, and he couldn't stop it. Although public opinion was still very unfavorable to Li Chen and his team, Li Chen and his team's reputation had already risen. Even if there were still people stirring up trouble in secret, the effect was not very big, but it only slowed down the process to a certain extent. Li Group. After a major change of blood, the internal environment was actually not as bad as the outside world imagined. All the newly recruited personnel were real talents. They were also people with dreams and drive, and Li Donglong's management during this period was very good. Although he was young, he was very experienced in dealing with things. Let the old and new employees also convinced. That night, all channels were fully launched with Swearong cream. Li Donglong was in command, and all the personnel below were mobilized. The Li Group and Zhao Group, which had originally been in a deadlock, were also quickly revitalized that night. All major shopping malls must go online quickly, and the staff in the warehouse must carefully check the goods and there must be no mistakes. All major managers, you must be foolproof, I will not allow a single mistake. Make sure that a large number of people can enter and buy at the same time. Messages were sent out from here, and everyone was very nervous. During the most difficult times, the Li Group and the Zhao Group did not stop producing the snow melting cream. Now everyone looks at Li Donglong with admiration. Although the president is not very old, his vision in handling things is too sharp. Not only that, when everyone is not optimistic about the Li Group, President Li still insists on production. This is the most incredible thing for everyone. Until the reversal at the last moment, everyone's eyes looking at Li Donglong completely turned into admiration. Countdown preparation. Yang Ming was even more nervous on the side. Can the Li Group create a new myth? Will the snow melting cream really be accepted by everyone? No one dares to guarantee it. The core personnel in charge of various channels in the company are staring at the computer nervously at this moment. Before this, their distribution had been completed, and tonight they were just back online. 3, 2, 1. All sales channels are open. On Li Donglong's office computer, he could clearly see the sales data of major platforms. 1 second, 2 seconds. There was no movement in the order. The whole company was dead silent. Just when everyone held their breath and were about to give up, the data fluctuated. It was like a rocket that suddenly shot up into the sky. The company, which had been quiet for a long time, could no longer hold back at this moment and burst into cheers. The data was against the sky. After being silent for more than 10 seconds, the data completely exploded. Li Donglong looked at the sales data of major platforms that almost rushed to the top in a straight line, and couldn't help but smile. Ding-ling-ling. Ding-ding-ding. Hello, I'm the general manager of the sales department of the Li Group. Restock. This, wasn't there a few thousand copies just now? Okay, I want to see the data first. Hello, this is the Li Group. Restock. Okay. What followed was a large number of phone bombings. Nothing is more direct than calling to add more goods. The goods laid out before have made them feel that the company may lose all its money. However, even with so many goods, they were still sold out. The order volume has soared all the way. Originally, Li Donglong felt that in this environment, it was impossible for everyone to believe in the snow melting cream anymore. After all, the previous lesson of the perfect traceless cream has not completely fallen. At this moment, Li Donglong was relieved and completely collapsed in the chair. He was under more pressure than anyone else, and at this moment he could finally relax a little. All major partners sought cooperation. This is the mall. When you are disliked by others, all partners will leave, but once you rise, all orders will come from all directions. Li Donglong didn't check how many orders the company's people received, but he knew that the staff should be very tired. Secretary Yang. The plump Yang Hong immediately walked up to Li Donglong and leaned over slightly and said, "Mr. Li. Call the restaurants that are still open and ask them to make some food and send it over. Tonight, there will be something to cook." Yang Hong looked at the young president with gratitude and admiration, and immediately nodded excitedly, striding her long legs and twisting her sexy waist to make arrangements quickly. That night, it was not only the staff of the Li group who couldn't rest, but also the Wang group. Before, these cooperations were supposed to be with Dopeng, Ma Jiafeng and others, but Li Donglong firmly refused to cooperate with them. Wang Yiming was so busy that he didn't even have time to go to the toilet. In the end, he couldn't help it and went to the toilet. When he came back, he saw that the company was completely blown up. After asking, he found out that the Wang group is now on the rise. The things that cooperated with the Li group are now sold out as soon as they are put on the shelves. Just now, the search index of Wang group directly rushed to the hot search. Not to mention, Wang group broke its own sales myth at this moment. Wang Yiming was overjoyed. He knew that he had made the right bet. Li Chen's company was really something. This time, he could finally give his father and his clansmen a perfect answer. Wang's bet won. Gu's alliance building. The clouds were gloomy. All the staff were forced to work now because they were also forced to go online. Seeing that the outside world was changing almost every minute, they wanted to die. They couldn't resign even if they wanted to. The group's popularity was low now, and even completely fell to the bottom, because the impact of this incident was extremely bad, resulting in a large number of returns. Before, Gu swallowed up as much as it had to spit out. The combat effectiveness of this group of people should not be underestimated. And there are more bigwigs who understand the law who personally went out to catch all the loopholes of Gu's one by one. Gu had to deal with it anxiously and had to pay attention. These people obviously would not let Gu's staff get away with it, and their methods were also different. In short, Gu's must compensate and return the goods, otherwise there will be a series of lawsuits. One or two, Gu's alliance companies will certainly not care, but the problem is that this time there is obviously someone in charge of organizing and dispatching. This is terrible. Gu's and those partner companies have to accept it even if they don't want to. What's more, the police officers from the supervision department have intervened in the investigation and restrained all the big guys such as Gu's. This means that the backbone who can command on the surface is no longer there. In this case, how can their situation be better? Under pressure, Gu's and other partner companies can only keep thinking of ways to fill this hole, and at the same time start to rob Peter to pay Paul. After all, the money has been taken away by these people, and it is impossible to take it out in a short time. When will your director Gu come out? We need to terminate the contract and pay compensation. Let Director Gu come out immediately. We have lost so much money in this cooperation. Shouldn't Director Gu give an explanation? I know they are all here. If you still don't want to see us, don't blame us for being unethical. Before this, hundreds of companies that had cooperated with Gu's group now all came together to ask for an explanation. Gu Qingfeng and his group have nowhere to hide. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 662. Alliance Building. Boss Gu, we agreed at the beginning, and we signed the agreement. Now that we have come to this, you have to give us an explanation. That's right, we came here with sincerity, but there was such a big mistake when signing the contract. You made us suffer heavy losses, so you have to give us an explanation, right? If this matter cannot be resolved, then please ask Boss Gu to pay according to the compensation standard. After all, We are not philanthropists. In the office, Gu Qingfeng looked at nearly 100 persons in charge, big and small, and a surge of anger surged in his heart. At the beginning, he chose companies with quite good strength in order to move to a higher level. But now, this group of companies with strong strength have completely united. They are not afraid of big companies like Gu's because they have enough confidence. Today's Gu's has fallen too much. And it is very likely to collapse completely. At this time, it is wise for them to choose to withdraw. But if Gu's refuses, then the worst will happen. These former partners are likely to turn against Gu. This is a result that Gu and other major pharmaceutical companies do not want to see. In the past, they could do whatever they want, but not now. The CEOs of several major pharmaceutical companies are looking at Gu Qingfeng at this moment. Now they have to spit out everything they have eaten before. Otherwise, they will enter the rhythm of death in advance. Gu Qingfeng took a deep breath and remained calm. Everyone, give us a little more time. Director Gu, the group of people interrupted impatiently, we understand that your company needs time, you can afford it, but what about us? We are all small companies. Hearing this, Gu Qingfeng wanted to curse, who dares to say that tens of billions are small companies? But now, the situation is not as expected. Gu Qingfeng was not qualified to show off, so he could only lower his face again. We will definitely get through this smoothly, everyone. Boss Gu, we are not here to listen to you talk about your Gu group, we just want a result. Will you give it or not? Hundreds of people stared at Gu Qingfeng and others with a sharp look. If they give it, it will be easy to talk. If they don't give it, then all the companies present will turn against them. Gu Qingfeng clenched his fists, but he had to keep a smile on his face. Give it. Boss Gu is still very righteous, we admire him. The group of people laughed immediately. Several alliance companies that have always been very good to Gu Group wanted to press these people to the ground and beat them up. But they couldn't, and they didn't dare. In the end, they had to spit out as much as they took in, and they had to pay a certain amount of compensation. Just this expenditure alone made them lose a lot of blood. Gu Qingfeng looked at the backs of the people leaving one after another, and he couldn't help kicking over the chair, and the whole person let out a crazy roar. Just when Gu Qingfeng was about to take a breath, a big shock happened on the internet again. The secretary hurriedly ran into the conference room with the relevant information, not caring whether to knock on the door or not. Boss Gu, something bad has happened. Boss Gu. Everyone was in a hurry and supported Gu Qingfeng, who almost fell to the ground. The other CEOs of several major pharmaceutical companies saw the latest news. How could this happen? The CEOs were all dizzy, and this was really over. Li Donglong. Li Chen, I will kill you. On the internet, a lot of evidence was thrown out, all of which were Gu's handles. Some people didn't believe it, some people thought it was fabricated, and some people thought it was the work of a certain god. The fact is that when this news appeared in the public, Gu's case would be filed for investigation. KTV. Dopeng, Ma Jiafeng, and others were holding bottles of wine and drinking. In the box, they also called a princess to accompany them. Boss Do, I toast you. Boss Ma, you are really amazing, I toast you again. Boss Yu, I think you are only in your 20s. In the private room, many princesses and men who accompanied the drinking said flattering words. Kang Yuxiang was surrounded by girls, and even the wine was fed to him by the little princesses beside him. Boss Gu said that we should wait a little longer, and then Li Chen will have a good harvest soon. He, I don't know where the Li family got the confidence to dare to compete with Boss Gu and others. Ma Jiafeng shook his head and sneered. Although Gu's company suffered a slight defeat this time, it is not something that his small Li group can suppress. The few small companies of the Wang group are so brave that they dare to cooperate with the Li group. This time we will teach them a lesson and let them understand what real strength is. Several people laughed. The Gu group has experienced so many storms, how could they be afraid of these? Boss Do, we. Bang. Before they could continue speaking, several figures rushed into the box. Do Peng's face suddenly darkened, and he shouted, "Who are you? Who let you in?" The leader looked at Do Peng and the other four and said, "Is it Do Peng and Ma Jiafeng?" "Yes. It's them, beat them up." "How dare you? Who told you to do that? Which department are you from? What are you doing? Stop it, stop it." By the time the KTV security personnel arrived, Do Peng and the other four had been beaten so badly that their mothers could not recognize them. The four people did not dare to go to the hospital and could only ask other doctors to come for treatment. However, before the four people had time to treat their injuries, their phones were bombarded with calls. "Boss Do, there is a problem with the company. Our goods were found to have problems and are now all off the shelves. Boss Ma, the other party is now terminating the cooperation." The company where the four people worked was facing a huge crisis at the same time. Do Peng did not even care about his own injuries and hurriedly contacted Ma Jiafeng and others. "Old Ma, something happened, what should we do?" "The other party obviously planned it, we can't bear it, otherwise, let's find Director Gu." Yu Ximen and Kong Yuxiang were also scared, and the four of them felt a strong fear and danger. When the four of them gathered together again, they found that they could not contact each other at all. Do Peng fell to the ground with an ugly look. There are only two possibilities for not being able to get through the phone. One is that something big happened to Gu's company, and the other is that Gu's company abandoned them. No matter which one it is quite desperate. Just when they were panicking, Do Peng's phone suddenly rang. Looking at the extremely unfamiliar number on it, the four people did not have the courage to answer it for a while, and the other party did not seem to be in a hurry and was waiting all the time. In the end, Do Peng could not help but answer it. "Mr. Do, you seem to be busy." Listening to the slightly childish voice on the phone, the eyes of Do Peng and the other four suddenly shrank. "Li Donglong. I didn't expect that a noble person like Mr. Do would still remember me." Li Donglong smiled, "Do you like the gift I just gave you?" "Did you arrange that group of people?" Do Peng gritted his teeth in anger, wishing to beat up the naughty kid on the phone. "I don't understand what Mr. Do is saying." Li Donglong smiled and said, "I want to discuss the acquisition of your company tonight. Do you think about it?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 663. At this moment, Do Peng and others have determined that these things are caused by Li Donglong. When he answered the phone just now, he had already recorded it. But Li Donglong didn't admit it at all, and he wasn't fooled. Especially when they heard that Li Donglong actually wanted to acquire their company, how could they hold back? Even if there is a problem now, it is not something that your Li group can afford. Li Donglong, things haven't come to the final step yet. It's still unclear who will win and who will lose. Do Peng had no intention of looking down on this young man at this moment. When Li Donglong heard this, he showed a look of regret and said, "That's right. I originally thought that if you agreed, you wouldn't be too miserable. It seems that you are not lucky. You. Do. Hearing the beeping sound from his cell phone, Do Peng was so angry that he smashed his cell phone on the spot. What did he mean by what he just said? Yu Ximen had a very bad feeling in his heart. I don't know, Ma Jiafeng still had some illusions. I think, maybe it's just a threat to us. Before he could continue, the cell phones of the other three of them rang. Seeing the dozens of messages that popped up, Ma Jiafeng and the others turned pale. What's wrong? Do Peng asked hurriedly. Ma Jiafeng swallowed his saliva, his expression dull. Big news. Big news. Gu Qingfeng, chairman of the Gu Group, issued a solemn statement. Regarding the incident of the perfect traceless ointment, it is determined that it has nothing to do with Gu Group and other alliance companies. All production, including dosage scheduling, is done by co-sponsored by Doupeng, Ma Jiafeng, Yu Ximen, and Kongyuk Xiang. What? So that's it? I knew that Mr. Gu was not that kind of black-hearted businessman. Oh my God, is there really someone out there helping Gu's name? Those four major companies are pretty good, but they're not beyond the reach of Gu and the others, right? It's so easy to throw away the blame. This incident caused a major earthquake and left many people in a state of confusion. What this thing is really like, many ordinary people have neither access nor imagination. And just after Gu's and other major pharmaceutical companies issued statements, they indeed saved a wave of decline. At least, judging from the current situation and feedback from netizens, the effect is very good. Doupeng and the four others were stunned. They couldn't even imagine that at the last moment, they and others would come out to take the blame. Just this one thunder was enough to kill four of them. They finally understood why Li Donglong could swear those words, but it was already too late for them to regret it. The inspector's siren sounded below. Doupeng and the four others looked pale. They knew that the worst outcome had happened. They were abandoned. Not surprisingly, their companies will also be investigated. More importantly, their companies are not clean enough to begin with. Doupeng, Ma Jiafeng, Yu Ximen, Kongyuk Xiang, please come with us. The person from the inspectorate department spoke very politely, and the entire process was recorded. Doupeng and the four others looked ashen, and once they entered, they might never come out again. However, they had no chance to resist when facing the personnel of the supervision department. The four people laughed miserably with injuries. At this moment, they regretted it. Although they have long known that seeking skin from a tiger is not a good thing, they all feel that they are unique before the matter begins. As long as nothing happens, it won't be a big deal. But once something happens, they really start to get scared. Even though this operation could revive Gu's business, Gu's shares and market value still plummeted. At the same time, with the arrest of Doupeng's foursome, the supervision department and the inspection department also officially stepped forward and issued a new notice. Several pharmaceutical companies, including Gu's, will be inspected at the same time. The inspection department is the highest in the secular world, while the inspection department is in charge of the entire martial arts world, including the secular world. When these two major structures were announced to the outside world, Gu's previous decline was really nothing. At this moment, all Gu's enterprises, including his alliance, experienced a real fall from a cliff. This suddenly made those who had always believed in the Gu family become a little unable to sit still. One after another stood up and sent messages to support Gu. After all, there are still many people who can't believe that Gu would do something like that. There are endless discussions on the internet about this matter. It was also on this day that Li Chen, the chairman of the Li Group, appeared in front of everyone again. As the effect of the snow cream began to show results, everyone wanted to know Li Chen's movements. What everyone didn't expect was that this time, Li Chen would actually go to the Gu Group. For a while, everyone was wondering, what was Li Chen going to the Gu Group? Gu family. Gu Qingfeng's head turned white with worry overnight, and his whole face turned sallow. Gu Qingfeng's wife Guo Renfang was helping him massage his temples, but the effect was not great. Gu Yunting was sitting in a wheelchair, more like a bystander at the moment, not showing the slightest concern for his father's situation. Lao Gu, we have to prepare for a retreat. Ming Xing, who is also a pharmaceutical tycoon, couldn't help but say. They are the true lifelong friendship, and only each other can make each other feel at ease. Yeah, we have to prepare a way out. Gu Qingfeng sighed and glanced at Gu Yunting. He still remembered Gu Yunting's advice, but he didn't believe it. No one would believe it. He believed that anyone in his position would never take Li Chen seriously. Now thinking about it, how ridiculous it is. Then why does Li Chen want to come here? Diming Xing couldn't help asking. Gu Qingfeng shook his head. He really couldn't guess what this young man was thinking, and no young man was as calm as this one. Almost all the industries that Gu's company was involved in now were already losing money. No one wanted them, and no one was willing to take over. In an instant, it collapsed, and the loss could not be described as heavy. All of this seemed to be in the hands of the other party. Gu Yunding said, "Dad, we can't escape." Gu Qingfeng frowned. He didn't like his sons look like a dead dog when he saw Li Chen. If you hadn't provoked Li Chen, how could there be so many troubles? Seeing his father's eyes, Gu Yunding said calmly, "I did provoke him, but I paid the price afterwards. You are just targeting Li Chen's industry under the guise of revenge for me, right?" Gu Qingfeng was a little annoyed. "Others don't know, but I don't know. Rongcheng is a weird place. Why did Li Hoqiang and his wife attract the attention of people in Beijing? There must be something in their laboratory that attracted that group of people, otherwise you wouldn't do it." Gu Yunding was unusually calm. He was sometimes blinded by lust, but he was sober. Many things that happened in Beijing were covered up, and it was not easy for outsiders to infiltrate. But some clues can still be analyzed. How could my father be an idiot to build such a large pharmaceutical company? To seek justice for himself, he took action against Li Chen? That's a brain disease. He would be stupid if he really believed it. Even if that's the case, so what? My goose hasn't fallen yet, and it won't fall so easily. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 664. As Gu Qingfeng said, Gu's foundation is very deep. Even if such a big event happened, it did not shake the foundation of Gu's. As for Li Chen, he just took some small advantages. For old-fashioned companies like them, there are some things that those young people don't understand. Of course, Gu Qingfeng did not deny that he was indeed curious about the Li Group. If a company that was exterminated by the four major families in Rongcheng and targeted by many wealthy families in Beijing is really not special, who would believe it? Gu Qingfeng believes that he is not inferior to those guys, so he naturally wants to know. It is only a matter of time before the car overturns, but it just happened that Li Chen picked up the leak. He doesn't think Li Chen has the capital to go against him. Even now that Li Chen's Swearun Cream and Xiaofeng Tea have emerged as a new force, and even became popular overnight, he still doesn't look down on Li Chen. "Are you still stubborn?" Gu Yunding's eyes flashed with disappointment. Is this still his wise father? Why is he so stubborn and unyielding? Gu Yunding didn't understand, nor could he explain the fear of facing Li Chen directly. Even the current Tianren realm masters couldn't imagine the fear of being crushed. Because in recent years, the number of battles in which Tianren realm masters participated was pitiful. Even if they fought at the same level, they would not kill each other, because no one could kill the other, and they didn't want to lose both sides. But everyone knew that Tianren realm was really a small realm and a steppe. That kind of natural suppression was particularly strong. Even the masters below Tianren realm didn't make many moves. The master was high above, suppressing everything. Therefore, those who had never seen the real life and death fight of Tianren realm masters would never understand Gu Yunding's shock and fear. Gu Qingfeng was not stupid, but he couldn't imagine how big the gap was. His ancestor was in Tianren realm, and with the previous inherent impression, Gu Qingfeng knew more clearly that Tianren realm was not something that ordinary martial arts masters could not cross. There is a huge gap between the Grand Master and the Heavenly Man realm, so big that many people cannot cross it in their entire lives. Once you enter the Heavenly Man realm, you will truly transcend the outside world. What is there to be afraid of with this ancestor in the Gu family? Take him to rest. Gu Qingfeng was too lazy to pay attention to his son, but now he would not really ignore Li Chen. In any case, this young man deserves respect for being able to turn the tables under such a fierce attack. Perhaps, Li Chen will come here tomorrow to discuss business. After all, Li Chen is also a businessman. If he is willing, the Li and Gu families will join forces, and they will have the final say in the entire medical industry. Dad, please listen to me for once. Li Chen is really better than our ancestor. Gu Yunding turned his head and shouted. The old housekeeper pushed him out of the living room, and Guo Renfang gently rubbed Gu Qingfeng's shoulders and said, "Don't mind, Yunding also cares about you." Humph, Gu Qingfeng was too lazy to speak. But thinking that Li Chen was about to arrive, his son didn't seem to be simply afraid, so he stood up and said, "I'll go see the ancestor." Okay, Guo Renfang immediately chased out and had to comfort her son. In her opinion, if the ancestor was willing to come forward, then the Gu family would basically have nothing to worry about. A secluded courtyard. When Gu Qingfeng came here, he found that the ancestor was still lying on the rocking chair, quietly admiring the moonlight. Ancestor. The ancestor of the Gu family did not speak, but pointed to the chair beside him with a palm leaf fan. Gu Qingfeng sat down obediently, without the domineering and arrogant outsiders. After a long time, the ancestor of the Gu family spoke slowly. "I heard that something happened to the Gu family." "Yes," Gu Qingfeng said, "but I can handle it." Well, the ancestor of the Gu family did not ask more. "Qingfeng has something unclear." "Speak." Yunting said that Li Chen was a strong man in the heavenly man realm, and he also said that Li Chen killed the Fuzu ninja with one punch that night. The ancestor of the Gu family smiled faintly when he heard this. What else? There were 6 heavenly man realm masters that day, but one of them was killed by Li Chen. The ancestor of the Gu family smiled disdainfully. How many people like them can enter the heavenly man realm by themselves? Although he has been in seclusion for a full 30 years, he doesn't believe that the outside world has changed so much. In the past few days, he also sent messages to some of his old friends, and except for a few, they all died. It's not surprising that there are strong ninjas in Fuzu, that ghost place. But if a ninja is killed after practicing to the heavenly man realm, then this heavenly man realm has to be questioned. Only those who really step into it by themselves can understand how mysterious and powerful the heavenly man realm is. It is absolutely impossible for the same level to kill the same level, not to mention that Li Chen can really survive against the 6 Tianren realms. If so, what is the point of his 30 years of seclusion? The number of Tianren realm masters today can be counted, right? How can there be a Tianren realm master under the age of 30? Even the Grand Masters probably don't have many. So, Li Chen will come to visit me tomorrow, Gu Qingfeng said. This person is young, but his mind is extremely deep. He makes plans before he acts. This visit is definitely not simple. I would like to ask the ancestor to come forward. If Li Chen wants to discuss business cooperation with my Gu family, the ancestor can also play a role in stabilizing the sea, but if he comes to ask for punishment, the ancestor can also test it. With you here, even if he is really in the heavenly realm, I am afraid he will weigh the pros and cons and will not easily take action again. In this way, my Gu family has room for maneuver and the crisis this time can be resolved. The ancestor of the Gu family glanced at Gu Qingfeng and nodded. Seeing this, Gu Qingfeng was overjoyed, and chatted with the ancestor for a while before going back. The ancestor of the Gu family looked at the bright moonlight, smiled and said, "If there is really such a young person in the heavenly realm, you can consider taking him as your adopted son." Many eyes fell on Zhang Cheng. Whether it is Gu Qingfeng or Li Chen, they are both key figures in this time. In everyone's opinion, the grudge between them is irreconcilable and will not end until death. Is Li Chen really just a simple visit at this time? The afterglow of the early morning fell, and the golden sun shone on the earth. At this time, The Zhangchenggu family was already crowded. There were people who came to watch the show, some came to find out, and some came to live broadcast. However, the place where the Gu family was located was also under security measures. Those who could come in naturally had some relationship with the Gu family, or had extremely unusual relationships. Gu Qingfen was still very calm. Since the old ancestor agreed last night, he was very calm. Calling these people this time was also a witness. No matter what Li Chen did, he had to be cautious. Of course, he also had his own little thoughts, which was to take the opportunity to publicize the Gu family and whitewash it by the way. No matter how he operated, it would be more beneficial to him. If Li Chen didn't know what was interesting, he could still drag Li Chen into the water. Director Gu, Li Chen has arrived. The old housekeeper said, standing aside. There were really a lot of people here, and several pharmaceutical shareholders who did business with Gu Qingfen were also watching the show. Gu Qingfen nodded, but did not stand up to greet him. Even if Li Chen was really in the heaven realm, he did not intend to give him any face. After all, the Gu family was well established. Hey, is Director Gu having breakfast? The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 665. All cameras and eyes turned to the source of the sound. I saw a handsome figure standing proudly on the courtyard wall. There was a faint smile on his handsome face that captivated all living beings, making it impossible for anyone to feel any hostility. Gu Qingfeng's face was gloomy. He originally planned to leave Li Chen alone. But he never expected that Li Chen directly overcame many obstacles and stood directly in front of him. The young man put his hands on his back and walked down slowly with an aura of dustiness. It's like there are stairs in the sky, every step seems to be in high spirits. I'll go, it can't be an act this time, right? The last time Li Chen took Murong Shui to fly to the sky to see the stars, it could be said that he used the props on the scene to get some heat, so it's impossible this time, right? Hey, be a good boy, is there really Qinggong in this world? Damn it, why is Li Chen getting more and more handsome? Is he really the father of 4 children? Oh my god, it turns out Qinggong really is there. I want such a life, I want to fly into the sky and escape from the earth. The live broadcast originally arranged was used by Gu to deal with Li Chen. But no one expected that everyone's focus would have shifted before the main show even started. What's even more terrible is that now that Li Chen has floated down and exposed his hand, countless facial control personnel can no longer side with the Gu family. Sometimes, fans really look at faces. There has been a huge commotion on the internet. The popularity of these anchors, who were not very popular at first, has soared rapidly in the live broadcast room. This matter had attracted great attention in the first place, but now Li Chen used his Qingkong to step down into the air and directly ignite the emotions in advance. Li Chen landed firmly on the ground with his last step, looked at Gu Qingfen with an indifferent expression and said, "Director Gu, I didn't disturb you for breakfast, right?" The members of the Gu family felt like they were facing a formidable enemy. Such a being was not something they could deal with. After a brief absence, Gu Qingfen had recovered. He pointed to the tables and chairs in front of him generously and said, "Since Mr. Li is here, why not have breakfast first?" "Thank you." Li Chen nodded with a smile, and then sat down gracefully, not afraid of Gu Qingfen tampering with the food. All the interviewers had a tacit understanding at this moment not to disturb them. They didn't know what Li Chen's true intention was here, or whether Li Chen and the Gu family would fight on the spot. Li Chen picked up the small bowl on the table, served himself a bowl of porridge, and blew it gently. It was preserved egg and lean meat porridge. This rice porridge is cooked well, so it tastes particularly good. Well, not bad, not bad. Li Chen nodded repeatedly. They say that running a big country is like cooking small dishes. From cooking porridge, you can see that Director Gu's business management skills are not comparable to those of us. Gu Qingfeng wiped his mouth, put down the tissue, looked at Li Chen and said, "Mr. Li, why are you here this time?" "Ah," Li Chen raised his head, "is Director Gu so anxious?" After he finished speaking, he picked up the rice porridge and poured it into his mouth. Finally, he wiped his mouth and said, "But I like talking to smart people like Director Gu." He picked up the milk on the side again, took a sip and then said, "It's not a big deal for Mr. Li to come here this time. First, I hope that Director Gu will apologize to my master in front of the camera. Of course, I don't care. The quality of reputation is of no use to me, but my master has worked hard for most of his life, and I can't let him he was still being slandered in his old age. Secondly, it's also simple. I hope Director Gu can give an explanation and compensation to all those who have been harmed. Isn't this too much? As for the third, my wife has been slandered by you for no reason and has thrown dirty water on her. I also need an apology, a personal apology. Fourth." Haha, before Li Chen could finish speaking, Gu Qingfeng couldn't help but sneered, and his laughter was very sarcastic. It seemed like he was ridiculing Li Chen's ignorance, it seemed like he was ridiculing Li Chen's lack of appreciation, and it was more like he was ridiculing his whims. Although I don't know how many other requests Li Chen has, he can't do any of the first 3 points. Gu Qingfeng looked directly at Li Chen and said, "Is this the purpose of your trip in person?" Yes, Li Chen didn't shy away from it at all. The internet also exploded. No one expected that Li Chen would be so arrogant. Now the Gu family has not lost yet, it has collapsed. You forcing me to come to my door like this are really a slap in the face in public. Gu Qingfeng couldn't help but laugh. He really didn't know whether this young man was too naive or too confident. Who gave him the courage to ask such a request from Gu? What if I, Mrs. Gu, don't agree? That's easy to handle. Li Chen smiled, then suddenly stopped smiling and said, "Then I will let the Gu family disappear from now on." Ha ha ha. Gu Qingfeng laughed when he heard this, then his eyes darkened and said, Li Chen, you don't really think that I, the Gu family, can only be slaughtered by others, do you? Seeing Gu Qingfeng's attitude, Li Chen shook his head and said, "So, Director Gu refuses to cooperate." Cooperation, Gu Qingfeng narrowed his eyes and said, "Now that my Gu family background is still there and I haven't fallen down yet, don't you think you are the one who is whimsical? Is this how you talk about cooperation? Then if I ask you to give up all the controlling rights of the Li group, will you be willing?" "Of course I don't want to." Li Chen shook his head. "Tisk, how about this, you kneel down and kowtow, and apologize only to my wife and master, and I will let you Gu family go." Bang! Gu Qingfeng slammed the table in anger and said, "Do you really want to die?" Li Chen's eyes were playful, and he was not afraid of Gu Qingfeng at all. "Please ask the ancestors to come forward." Gu Qingfeng knew that his words were not threatening to Li Chen at all. Ancestor? Are there still people of the older generation in the Gu family? Even Gu Qingfeng can't be dealt with, will it be useful for such an old-fashioned person to come out? Countless people who were watching the live broadcast expressed their opinions. Gu Qingfeng saw Li Chen's arrogant and stubborn look, and he was already furious. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with Li Chen at the moment, and he just fought quickly. Whether the ancestors came out to deter or teach him a lesson, he had no objection. In short, he didn't want to see Li Chen jumping in front of him. A sigh was heard, and the next second, an old man appeared out of thin air. It's really a ghost. What's going on? Is it magic? Oh my God, it's good that it's broad daylight, otherwise it would be scary. Am I the only one who wants to know how this old man appeared? In the live broadcast, countless viewers were curious. Everyone thought that the ancestor of the Gu family should be an elderly man who needed someone to support him when walking. but who knew that the other party was so tough? When the ancestor of the Gu family appeared, everyone on the Gu family side became confident. Li Chen also sat up slightly, looked at the old man in front of him and said, "I was wondering why the Gu family was so tough. It turns out that someone was backing them up." The ancestor of the Gu family looked at Li Chen, and he was carefully investigating. But what surprised him was that there was no fluctuation in the cultivation of this young man. Could it be that he was not a martial arts master? Li Chen stood up, and the old man noticed that he was playing with a jade pendant in his hand, which emitted a very weak concealing wave. "Old man, what is your cultivation level?" "I am a Grand Master." Li Chen grinned and put down the jade pendant in his hand. At this moment, the cultivation aura of the Grand Master realm was exposed. Gu Qingfeng looked surprised. He still couldn't believe that there was such a young Grand Master. No wonder he was so arrogant. If the ancestor had not been promoted, the Gu family would be in real danger today. The ancestor of the Gu family couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, but he was still shocked. The jade pendant has the effect of covering, even he couldn't see through it. Now that he saw that Li Chen was a real Grand Master, he couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Sometimes, it's really annoying to compare yourself with others. But this kid is too arrogant. He dared to step on the face of the Gu family by relying on himself as the youngest Grand Master in history. He really doesn't know how to live or die. Grand Master, the Gu family's ancestor couldn't help but admire him. Very good talent. If you are willing to acknowledge me as your father, I can consider not making things difficult for you today. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 666. Gu Qingfeng was stunned. If the ancestor recognized Li Chen as his adopted son, what would he be? Wouldn't he have to call Li Chen his ancestor? Thinking of this, Gu Qingfeng suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. Even though he was not a person in the martial arts world, he knew very well what a Grand Master who was less than 30 years old meant. If the Gu family had a relationship with such a young Grand Master, the Gu family would definitely be able to move to a higher level in the future. Once Li Chen recognized him as his adoptive father, the Gu family, the Li family, and the Zhao family would really be tied together in the future. This is the real strategist and the winner. Just when everyone was looking forward to watching Li Chen himself was stunned. He really didn't expect this situation to happen. Was this ancestor of the Gu family because he had lived too long and was too thick-skinned, or because he thought he was really easy to control? Not to mention that his real cultivation was not a Grand Master, even if it was. How could such a potential existence surrender easily? Did this ancestor of the Gu family stay in seclusion for too long and have water in his brain? Seeing that Li Chen did not reply immediately, the ancestor of the Gu family smiled faintly. "I know you have concerns, and even feel that I am not worthy. Young man, although you have good talent and have reached this step at the age of less than 30, you should also feel that it is very difficult to make progress in the Grand Master realm. If you do not advance, you will regress. As for the Grand Master, that is the real heavenly man realm. There are many Grand Masters in the world, but how many people have truly entered the heavenly man realm? If you become my adopted son, the Gu and Li families will be one in the future. Secondly, I can really help you avoid detours and let you touch the threshold of the heavenly man realm without spending too much time." Li Chen couldn't help but be amazed. If it were anyone, I'm afraid they would be happy. Martial arts masters don't have many desires. The higher they step into the higher realm, the more they desire immortality. Only with true immortality can the wealth and power in the world be obtained. And only when the cultivation enters a new realm can there be enough lifespan to do these. The Gu family ancestor is not shameless, because the conditions he offers can make some old and uncultivated people willing to lose face. The gap between the heavenly realm and the Grand Master realm is too big, and not everyone can enter it. How? The Gu family ancestor was in a good mood for a rare time, and said a few more words. Gu Qingfeng's heart was very complicated, and he didn't want Li Chen to agree. Once he agreed, there would be no chance to retaliate. But if he didn't agree, then the Gu family might have a lot of trouble, and a promising martial arts master is what the Gu family needs. Although the ancestor entered the heavenly realm, the increased lifespan is also limited. If the Gu family wants to exist in the future and become richer, it must be protected by the younger generation of guardians. If Li Chen becomes a member of the Gu family, then the Gu family can rest assured in the future. Li Chen played with the jade pendant and put it on his body again. The aura belonging to the Grand Master realm disappeared again. I think what you said makes sense. Li Chen thought about it seriously, which made the Gu family ancestor very happy. However, although you are right, I don't want to agree. The face of the Gu family ancestor sank slightly. He really couldn't understand why Li Chen refused. Gu Qingfeng was relieved. He still hoped that the ancestor could destroy this guy's prestige. Have you really thought it through? The tone of the Gu family ancestor couldn't help but become serious. I, Li Chen, only have one parent, and they are the two who have passed away, Li Chen said slowly. As for you, you are not qualified. Gu Qingfeng almost couldn't help laughing when he heard this. This guy is really not afraid of death. He actually dared to say that the ancestor in the realm of heaven and man is not qualified. Li Chen, I didn't say a word, you are looking for death yourself. The face of the Gu family ancestor was uncertain. If such an excellent seed could not be used by the Gu family, then he would never let such a person be used by others. Even if it means killing the future of the martial arts world, he will not hesitate. Gu's ancestor is no longer an ordinary person. He has lived too long and no longer has too many ties and fetters. The only thing to consider now is the future of Gu's family. Since Gu's family has such a strong enemy, it should be eliminated. Li Chen, people often have only one chance to choose. Have you really thought about it? I have thought about it. Li Chen clasped his fists. In this case, you can't stay. Gu's ancestor was very sorry. Gu's family needed such a young warrior to protect him, so that he could retreat and impact the next realm. Li Chen's face changed in shock, as if he just realized his dangerous situation, and said, "What do you mean, senior? Since you can't be used by me, of course I will kill you, the scourge that is hostile to my Gu family." In the cradle, the Gu family's ancestor was cold and ruthless at this moment, and he was completely different from before. The martial arts world has never lacked geniuses, and there are also many geniuses who have not grown up. Li Chen, you are still young, maybe you don't understand the meaning of this sentence, but you should understand it in your next life. In the live broadcast room, many viewers exploded. What does this old man want to do? Damn, in broad daylight, is he trying to kill someone? Damn, Li Chen is so arrogant now, he met a real ruthless person. Countless fans couldn't help but start to worry. Everyone is not stupid, so they naturally saw the killing intention of the Gu family ancestor. Li Chen's face was very ugly, and he said, "Senior, are you really going to attack me in public?" Gu Qingfeng on the side sneered. He was still very optimistic about Li Chen. It's a pity, he is too arrogant. I really think that no one in the world can deal with him. But seeing Li Chen like this, Gu Qingfeng was still very happy. The ancestor of the Gu family didn't plan to talk nonsense with Li Chen at all. Since Li Chen couldn't become the guardian of the Gu family, he would kill him. As for killing in public, he didn't care. Now he is already in the realm of heaven and man, even the inspection department has to give him face. All the people watching the live broadcast were completely stunned. They never thought that they could see such an exaggerated scene now. The ancestor of the Gu family didn't hesitate at all, and slapped Li Chen on the top of his head. Even a master of the Grand Master realm would find it hard to resist this palm. Bang, bang, bang. The powerful pressure caused all the surrounding equipment to explode. Ah! Those holding mobile phones and cameras screamed one after another, and some even had cuts on their faces. However, when they saw the people from the Gu family sweeping over with cold eyes, they dared not make a sound. Damn, why is it dark? Where is the anchor? Turn on the live broadcast quickly. Damn, isn't this going to kill people to silence them? In the live broadcast room, everyone was in an uproar. Some directly called the police to the inspectorate, saying that someone was committing a crime. At this time, in the Gu family mansion, the ancestor of the Gu family had no mercy and fell on Li Chen's head with a palm. However, this palm that was enough to kill a master of the Grand Master was above Li Chen's head and could not fall down. Li Chen, who was sitting on a chair with his legs crossed, looked at the ancestor of the Gu family with a playful look. The Gu family ancestor was stunned. What's going on? Li Chen looked at the stunned face of the Gu family ancestor and Gu Qingfeng's look of seeing a ghost, and couldn't help shaking his head. He used the jade pendant to lie and deliberately said that his cultivation was only a grandmaster, just to test the Gu family. If the Gu family didn't have the idea of killing him, then he would also show mercy to the Gu family. The degree of extinction of the Gu family depends on the attitude of the people who are in charge of the Gu family. Unfortunately, people's hearts really can't stand the test. Li Chen looked at the Gu family ancestor, and flicked his right hand at the Gu family ancestor. A mere old man who has just entered the realm of heaven and man, and whose realm is not even stable, dares to kill him? The sharp finger-flicking energy shot out and instantly appeared in front of the Gu family ancestor. When the Gu family ancestor saw that his palm could not fall, he already knew that he was calculated. He was shocked, angry, and afraid. He immediately mobilized all his cultivation and slapped his palms repeatedly, hitting Li Chen's energy fiercely. Boom! The next second, the body of the Gu family ancestor flew backwards fiercely and finally smashed the wall. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 667. The solid wall of the Gu family villa cracked with countless lines in an instant under the impact of the Gu family ancestor. The tiles on the wall had already been shattered. Hiss. The media, anchors, wealthy families, senior pharmaceutical company CEOs, etc. who were originally invited were dumbfounded. It was really that everything happened so fast that they had no chance to recover. Although they were not people in the martial arts world, a small number of people knew about it. The Tianren realm was like a fairy, and it was absolutely impossible to deal with it with common sense. But now, they were all confused. Since the Gu family ancestor dared to stand up and dared to attack Li Chen, who called himself a grandmaster, he must have been absolutely sure. But why was he counterattacked so badly now? Gu Qingfeng's face was indescribably complicated. He couldn't say a word, mainly because he didn't know how to start. He had imagined many results, but he had never imagined this result. Li Chen stood up slowly. The old ancestor of the Gu family who fell to the ground had a gloomy look in his eyes. He kicked the ground with his right foot, and a big pit appeared on the ground instantly. As a well-known veteran, although he has not made a move for many years, it does not mean that he has forgotten how to make a move. The old ancestor of the Gu family had a gloomy look in his eyes, clenched his right hand into a fist, and punched Li Chen. This punch concentrated all his mind and all his strength together. The fist was plain and unpretentious, but it was the most powerful means of attack. A punch. Li Chen stretched out his left hand expressionlessly and gently grasped the right fist of the old ancestor of the Gu family. The clothes between the two were swinging wildly, as if there was a blower blowing. The old ancestor of the Gu family did not have time to say anything more. He roared, sank his waist, and with the help of the power of the ground, twisted his waist and punched again. But at this moment, Li Chen's right leg retreated, opened up enough distance, and his body was pulled back violently. The Gu family ancestor, who had already accumulated enough strength, was forcibly drained of his energy. After Li Chen retreated, he retracted his right leg violently, and his right knee hit the Gu family ancestor's abdomen fiercely. Bang! When the dull drum sounded, the face of the Gu family ancestor was distorted. At this point in the heavenly man realm, he asked himself that his body was no longer something that could be hurt by ordinary people. However, Li Chen's only blow almost broke his internal organs. Li Chen's left hand was still holding his right fist, and at this time his body suddenly sank, smashing the Gu family ancestor directly into the ground. Bang! Dong! Clang! On the surrounding tables, the dishes clanged. On the ground, a cloud of dust rolled up. The body of the Gu family ancestor was embedded in the ground. For a moment, everyone was stunned. Why is the current result completely different from what everyone expected? Li Chen looked at the ancestor of the Gu family, who roared angrily and slapped the ground with both hands. His body suddenly bounced up. He shook his head and said, "You are like this in the early stage of the heaven and man realm." Looking for death, the ancestor of the Gu family was furious, and his eyes seemed to be spitting out flames. He was the ancestor of the Gu family, the strongest person in the early stage of the heaven and man realm. How could he suffer such humiliation? Boom! The momentum was aroused, and the ancestor of the Gu family was like thunder. Long spears condensed by pure internal energy appeared on his hands and stabbed at Li Chen. The bursting spear pierced the air. Like lightning, it was aimed at Li Chen's heart fiercely. This is the strongest killing move after the unity of heaven and man. Although the ancestor of the Gu family could also release internal energy, he was far from being able to do it like this. Li Chen narrowed his eyes and felt a strong killing intent, but that was all. He tapped the ground with his toes, and the whole person was like a fallen leaf, quickly pulling away from the explosive spear. The spear seemed to have eyes, chasing Li Chen and moving forward. The Gu family ancestor no longer had anyone else in his eyes, only Li Chen. He knew that the result of this battle would most likely be death. However, he was unwilling and did not believe it. How could there be such a young Tianren realm? From Li Chen's suppression of him, he knew that Li Chen's cultivation realm surpassed his own, but he was not sure whether it was the early or middle stage of the Tianren realm. As for the late stage of the Tianren realm, he dared not think about it, and felt that it was impossible. Li Chen retreated to a place where he could not retreat, and finally stopped. The explosive spear approached instantly with a fierce killing intent, like thunder. Li Chen's right hand drew a semicircle on his chest, and an invisible defensive barrier blocked him. Ding! With a crisp sound, Gu Qingfeng and others saw the long spear of the Gu family ancestor spinning rapidly, forming a fierce collision with a semicircular barrier in front of Li Chen. Countless sparks flew out between the tip of the spear and the barrier, but the tip of the spear could not break through. "What is your cultivation level?" the Gu family ancestor couldn't help asking. He had already used all his skills, but it was still useless. Li Chen was stunned for a moment, and then said, "Me? What cultivation level?" As he spoke, he crossed his hands in front of his chest, and finally condensed into a sword light. He slashed at the Gu family ancestor with a sword, and the sharp sword energy was extremely fast. "If according to the realm you said, I am already in the late stage of the heavenly realm." As soon as Li Chen finished speaking, the Gu family ancestor swung his spear and created an impenetrable spear shadow. When the sword energy penetrated, the explosive spear was directly cut off from the middle. Exploded with a loud bang. The Gu family ancestor retreated rapidly, but was not as fast as the sword energy, and was directly penetrated by the sword energy. "Ancestor!" Gu Qingfeng exclaimed, and the other spectators could not sit still. The Gu family ancestor stared blankly at the bloodstains on his body, and blood flowed from the corners of his mouth that could not be stopped. His eyes were full of shock and disbelief. Li Chen walked slowly, looked at the unwilling eyes of the Gu family ancestor, and said, "This road is your own choice." As he said that, a palm fell on the head of the Gu family ancestor. No Gu Qingfeng rushed over, his eyes were red. If the ancestor died, the Gu family would be finished. Bang! Before Gu Qingfeng approached Li Chen, he was bounced back by a strong force. Bang! The tables and chairs were smashed by Gu Qingfeng's body, and Gu Qingfeng screamed. He could only watch the ancestor being beaten to death by Li Chen, kneeling straight on the ground. Li Chen retracted his palm, looked at Gu Qingfeng who wanted to kill him, and sneered, "Next, I will watch your Gu family being eaten away bit by bit." Puff Gu Qingfeng was so angry that he spit out blood on the spot and fainted. Li Chen glanced at the old housekeeper of the Gu family standing aside, nodded, turned and left. The biggest support of the Gu family was gone, and Li Chen didn't need to do anything for the rest. He wanted to make Gu Qingfeng heartbroken little by little, and let Gu Qingfeng taste the fate of being abandoned by everyone and being despised and cursed by everyone. When Gu Qingfeng woke up, he found that his wife Guo Renfang and the housekeeper were still there. And all the people who had worked with him before were gathered together at this moment. Gu Qingfeng hurriedly asked, "Where is the ancestor?" "The ancestor is dead." Guo Renfang's eyes were red, and she couldn't even hate him. Even though she was a woman, she knew that they couldn't afford to offend Li Chen. "Li Chen," Gu Qingfeng gritted his teeth and said, "My Gu family and you are irreconcilable." "Boss Gu," the CEOs of the major companies on the side spoke up. Gu Qingfeng took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry, I lost my composure. Please rest assured, my Gu's has not collapsed yet, and we will definitely be able to." "Boss Gu," said an old boss of an alliance pharmaceutical company, "it's over. From today on, Gu's has been kicked out of the alliance." "What?" Gu Qingfeng looked like he was struck by lightning, and looked at Diming Xing and others. "What are you talking about?" "Gu Qingfeng, we say, your Gu's has been kicked out," the old boss just now said. "Gu's is no longer qualified to cooperate with us. Now, Perfect and Traceless and Yi Lightweight Lost He are all independently developed by Gu's, so whether it is compensation or responsibility to be born in the future, it will be Gu's responsibility." Gu Qingfeng sat down with a dejected look on his face. He couldn't believe it. In the past, Gu's was the leader of their group, but now that the ancestor died, they kicked Gu's out. "How dare you? Gu Qingfeng, the glory of the Gu family is a thing of the past. If you still insist on being stubborn, humph. Gu Qingfeng, this is the result we agreed upon just now when you were unconscious. Because of your willful behavior, our major pharmaceutical partners have suffered huge losses of innocence and economic losses. Now the Gu family needs to pay us double compensation." The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 668. Gu Qingfeng couldn't help laughing when he saw the greedy faces of these people without any scruples. He picked up the contract and looked at the dazzling and desperate numbers, and murderous intent rose in his heart. "Okay, I will give it to you." Gu Qingfeng took a deep breath. He had no right to refuse. Because the old ancestor meant that Gu's family was no longer the same as before. "Old Gu. Go, arrange people, sign the compensation agreement, and pay on the spot." Gu Qingfeng closed his eyes. Guo Renfang washed his face with tears, but had to do it. When the Gu family was glorious in the past, these people called each other sister-in-law affectionately. But now, they are only indifferent, and only have money in their eyes. This compensation will make Gu's family lose everything. When Guo Renfang finished all the things, the Gu family was already in a bleak state. None of these people stayed, because Gu's family was already a loser. Gu Qingfeng looked at Diming Xing, who didn't leave at last, and couldn't help but smiled sadly. "You're not leaving." Diming Xing sighed, "We are friends." Haha. Gu Qingfeng felt that these two words were particularly glaring. Which of these people just now was not a friend that he, Gu Qingfeng, had known for decades? But as soon as the ancestor died, they took ruthless action against the Gu family. Friend. What a ridiculous name. Gu Qingfeng looked at Diming Xing and said, "They will not have an easy life next." "What do you mean?" Diming Xing was stunned. "Do you really think that people like Li Chen will leave troubles?" Gu Qingfeng laughed and said, "Although my Gu family is ruined, how can they, as my collaborators, get away?" Diming Xing's hair stood up all over his body. "I have never begged anyone in my life. The first time was to Zhao Dezu, and he refused. The second time is now." Gu Qingfeng looked at Diming Xing and said, "Take my son and wife away from here." "What about you?" Diming Xing said anxiously. "I can't leave." Gu Qingfeng sighed. "Even if I die, I will fight with Li Chen and let those ungrateful guys taste the pain." Diming Xing wanted to say something, but found that it was useless to say anything, so he could only agree. Big news, big news. 5 or 6 pharmaceutical companies that have been working closely with Gus have all been reported. Oh my God, I really can't believe they are such people, they are so crazy. The people from the supervision department have been dispatched, and several guys have been arrested. The old director who had just left Gus looked at the shares he got with joy and returned to the company excitedly. Gus' life and death has nothing to do with them, anyway, everyone is just a collaborator. Since your Gus is going to lose, it's better to let us get it instead of letting Li and Zhao get it. The old director, surnamed Dong, found something wrong as soon as he walked into the office. He turned his head suddenly and saw that the door had been locked and there was a person standing behind the door. "Who are you?" old Dong exclaimed, fumbling with his hands. "The one who will send you to the west." Old Dong turned and ran, but how could he be faster than a professional killer? A knife cut his throat, and the bright red blood spurted out, forming a brilliant blood flower. The whole network was shocked. "Oh my God, so many big news, have you seen it?" "Of course I saw it." The people from the supervision department went to look for Dong Dai, who cooperated with Gu's company. Who would have thought that Dong Dai was killed quietly in his office? Who did it? Was it Li Chen? How is it possible? Li Chen was cooperating with the supervision department's investigation at that time. Another person died. It is said that he also appeared at Gu's place. However, this Mr. Chen seemed to have committed suicide by jumping off the building. His body was broken. Gu's shares and a large amount of money were taken away by them, but they all died after they returned. Could this be revenge from Gu's company? This possibility cannot be ruled out. These people are all scum. They have harmed our people and are still greedy for money. They deserve to die. Even if they die, they should be judged by the inspection department and the supervision department, not by someone secretly doing it. One after another, major events broke out. Without exception, they were all related to Gu's company. The huge business alliance collapsed completely. The latest news is that the people from the supervision department have checked these companies that have been in trouble. They all have huge problems. They are very closely connected with Gu's, and many of them are led by Gu's. Big news, Gu's chairman Gu Qingfeng was violent and killed people at home, and the person he killed was actually their Gu family's old housekeeper. Fortunately, the people from the supervision department went in time and rescued him. Is Gu Qingfeng crazy? Why did he attack his confidant? Look at the investigation results released by the supervision department. This old housekeeper of the Gu family turned from darkness to light and revealed a shocking secret. It turns out that the genius Dr. Zhao Dezu was forced away by Gu's. Oh my God, it turns out that the human experiments were conducted by Gu's. As for the genius Dr. Zhao Dezu, he was an opponent from the beginning to the end. A stone stirs up 1,000 waves. The whole network is boiling. At this moment, there are more people criticizing and scolding Goose than those who attacked Li Chen and Zhao Dezu at the beginning. Now the truth is out, right? I said that Li Chen and his group were wrongly accused. Those who exposed others on the internet are really guilty. Now they are attacking Goose Company again. The keyboards in the hands of these people are murderous weapons. It's terrible. The Gu family is such a black-hearted businessman. How many bad things have they done over the years? There was a lot of discussion on the internet, and even people in real life couldn't help it. Gu's family completely collapsed overnight. The business empire that had been built over the years could no longer bear it at this moment. Just when everyone was waiting for the latest news from Gu Qingfeng, the headquarters of Gu's building, Gu Qingfeng stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window with a head full of white hair. He held a cigarette in his hand and smiled sadly. Collapse, everything collapsed. Gu's family was completely hopeless. The public resentment was so great that even his death could not make up for the loss. Are you satisfied? Gu Qingfeng said calmly. On the sofa beside him, Li Chen asked with a faint smile, how does it taste? Gu Qingfeng's eyes were full of unconcealable murderous intent, destroy my son, destroy my family, destroy my career, make me betray my relatives, make me be reviled by thousands of people, and become a shame to history. Even 3 generations of my Gu family have been on the pillar of shame. You will never be able to enjoy the normal rights of a citizen, Li Chen. When it comes to cold-bloodedness and ruthlessness, no one can compare with you. If it weren't for my lack of ability, I would definitely slap your skin, peel off your tendons, destroy your family, and scatter your wife and children. Words full of resentment came out of Gu Qingfeng's mouth. He hated this man so much that within a few days, the billion-dollar empire collapsed. He became a being despised by everyone, and even the graveyard where his ancestor had just been buried was dug up. It can be said that there is no rest in death. What he gave to Li Chen returned everything to him. In the past few days, he wanted to die but couldn't. Li Chen forced him to accept this kind of mental torture over and over again. Until this day, he had only wanted to die. Gu Qingfeng couldn't help crying, and couldn't help crying and laughing at the same time. You win, you win. Gu Qingfeng roared, his eyes bloodshot, and his face was extremely haggard. When Li Chen saw Gu Qingfeng like this, he felt no pity at all. Was it not the case for Li and Zhao at the beginning? Gu Qingfeng threw the cigarette butt on the ground, and prayed with exhaustion, I have been tortured by you for 3 days, are you going to deprive me of my right to die? Li Chen stood up and said, Gu Qingfeng, you are not that easy to be hit, are you? Gu Qingfeng looked at Li Chen coldly until a figure walked in. It was Diming Xing. Do you think it will be okay if you entrust your son and wife to Diming Xing? Gu Qingfeng's pupils shrank and he stared at Diming Xing. He rushed over with an unbalanced mind and shouted angrily, it's no harm to my wife and children, Li Chen, don't you understand? He was hoarse and howling like a wolf. Li Chen shook his head and said, I didn't take any action. It wasn't me who betrayed you. Gu Qingfeng yelled and cursed crazily, Diming Xing, you beast, I trust you so much, why did you betray me? Gu Qingfeng, I am not your subordinate. We are just a cooperative relationship. How can we talk about betrayal? Diming Xing sneered, everyone will push against you when the wall falls. Don't you understand? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Country Life of a Rich Dad. Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 669. Originally, Gu Qingfeng had not reached the most desperate moment, because he still had his son and wife. As long as they were all safe, he felt that even if he was tortured by Li Chen's endless mental torture at this moment, it would not matter. At least, he still had a friend who did not betray him. But now Dimingxing's appearance cut off his last fantasy. His wife and son were gone, and the Gu family was extinct. He thought he was better than Li Chen, at least his friend had never betrayed him until his death. But now, the knife of betrayal was still deeply inserted into his heart. Gu Qingfeng stared at Dimingxing with resentment and cursed, "I will not let you go even if I become a ghost. I am not afraid of you alive, do you think I am afraid of you dead?" Dimingxing looked at Gu Qingfeng with a sneer. Gu Qingfeng, who was close but helpless, looked at Li Chen and said, "I will give you everything in the Gu family, you can do whatever you want, I only have one request." Oh, even just now, Gu Qingfeng was still resisting. But now, hearing that his wife and son were gone, Gu Qingfeng was completely broken. "I can even kneel down in public to apologize to your master and your wife. I am also willing to cooperate with you and give everyone an explanation. I will take all the blame." Gu Qingfeng pointed at Dimingxing and said, "As long as you want to kill him." Dimingxing's face changed drastically when he heard this. "Gu Qingfeng, even if you are willing, so what? You will die sooner or later. In this case, why don't you die earlier?" Dimingxing looked at Li Chen with a little fear and said, "Mr. Li, it's the same with or without him. I know all the layout of the Gu family over the years." Li Chen showed a thoughtful look. "Mr. Li, I can force him to do what he did just now." Dimingxing looked at Li Chen and was a little moved. He said in horror, "Mr. Li." Before Dimingxing finished speaking, Li Chen had already appeared in front of Dimingxing and slapped him with one palm. "Li." Dimingxing looked at Li Chen in shock and horror. He never thought that he would be killed by Gu Qingfeng in the end. Seeing Dimingxing fall to the ground in disbelief, Gu Qingfeng laughed and cried, "Good death, good death." Gu Qingfeng cried bitterly. Li Chen did not disturb Gu Qingfeng, but put a spare mobile phone in front of him. "I will deal with your son and wife, including your ancestors." Gu Qingfeng cried bitterly, and he stood up after 15 minutes. After wiping away his tears and cleaning the marks on his face, Gu Qingfeng began to tidy up his clothes and took Li Chen's mobile phone to record all the things he had promised. After recording various videos, Gu Qingfeng put his mobile phone on the table, opened the secret compartment in this office, and took out all the important documents and contracts. These things were secretly prepared by me over the years. They were originally left for Yunting and others. Gu Qingfeng smiled sadly, "But now there is no chance. I was sorry to Zhao Dezu back then, and now these are regarded as an apology to him." Li Chen did not speak, but quietly put these things away. After doing all this, Gu Qingfeng let out a long breath, as if he had unloaded a heavy burden. At the beginning, Zhao Dezu said that I was not on the right path and would be attacked sooner or later. Gu Qingfeng smiled. "I scolded him at that time, but in fact, I knew this day would come, but as long as this day has not come, I think all that is bullshit. But, the pressure in my heart is also very great." Gu Qingfeng stood up and began to carefully tidy up his few white hairs, and then tidied up his clothes, pants, and shoes. "Putting aside other things, you are the most capable young man I have ever seen. If possible, I really think you can talk to me." "I don't deny it," Li Chen nodded. "It's a pity that we are not from the same world after all." Gu Qingfeng stood at the edge of the window and opened it. He turned and looked at Li Chen, and smiled, "Apologize to that old man Zhao Dezu for me. For so many years, I have failed him, and, I can't clean up the Dongfang family. I hope you can." Gu Qingfeng jumped up with a smile on his face. Li Chen stood by the window, watching Gu Qingfeng's figure gradually become smaller, and finally fell into a ball of meat. Looking at the man below who had completely ended his sinful life, Li Chen turned around and walked to Dimingxing's side, snapping his fingers. "Hoo hoo." Dimingxing sat up suddenly, breathing heavily like a drowning person. He hurriedly touched the top of his head and found that he was not dead. He knelt down suddenly and said, "Thank you, Mr. Li, for not killing me." Until this moment, Mingxing was soaked all over. He felt the fear of his nephew Gu Yunting and felt the horror of this young man. Gu Qingfeng was calculated from beginning to end, including death. "Do you regret it?" Li Chen looked at Mingxing with a playful look. "He even misunderstood you when he died." Mingxing shook his head bitterly. "Regret it? Definitely regret it. But if it weren't for this matter would never be settled, and his nephews would never be forgiven. The rest of the Gu family's properties will be seized by the inspection department. As for the Gu family's own property, you can give it to Gu Yunting and his mother and son. What about you?" Mingxing looked up at the young man. He didn't understand him. Logically speaking, he would definitely die, and no one would feel wronged. Li Chen had already got everything he wanted. Even if he didn't give Gu Yunting a penny, no one would say anything. Li Chen glanced at the office, waved his wrist, and all traces disappeared. "I'm leaving, you guys deal with it?" "Yes. I'm Gu Qingfeng. It's my fault that I came forward after such a long time. I apologize to Dr. Zhao Dezu, the genius doctor I once slandered. At the beginning, Dr. Zhao Dezu and I hit it off, but my greed led to today's tragedy. I forced him to do human experiments. I, Gu Qingfeng, am sorry to everyone. I know it's too late to say this now, but I still want to say it." "What is this?" "Apology. Gu Qingfeng is dead. He jumped off the building and committed suicide." "No way. Was this recorded before he died? Do you think you can end it all if you die? What about the family you hurt? It's a relief for this kind of person to die. It's really too easy for him. Say less, everyone is dead, all grudges should be settled." Gu Qingfeng's video was posted online, which immediately caused a huge response. There were people who cursed, some who thought his death was not a pity, and some who thought they should keep things quiet. In short, this matter became a hot topic with the death of Gu Qingfeng. But it also means that this matter will end here. Inspectorate Prison. Mingxing came to the visiting room alone under the guidance of the staff. When he sat down, the young man in prison uniform, Gu Yunting, who was shackled, came in a wheelchair. "Uncle Di," Gu Yunting nodded to Mingxing. "Your father committed suicide. The Country Life of a Rich Dad." Author, Wo Shihami Gua. Chapter 670. Gu Yunting was not surprised to hear the news. His eyes were slightly red, and he asked, "What about the previous things?" Mingxing said, "Now the video of his confession has been posted online, but many people don't forgive him now. It's normal not to forgive him. Many families were almost ruined by him." Gu Yunting took a deep breath and said, "That's good, my mother. Don't worry, according to your request, no one knows where she is." Mingxing explained, "Now your mother is specially taken care of, and she will insist on waiting for the day you are released from prison." Seeing Gu Yunting nod, Mingxing couldn't help but say, "You obviously had the opportunity to escape with your mother, but why did you find Li Chen?" Gu Yunting smiled sadly. "Escape?" He knew that Uncle Di was really doing good for himself and the Gu family, but there were some things he couldn't say. Li Chen was the kind of person who would kill every way out for you. How could he really leave you a way out? What his father thought was a perfect plan was just his imagination. Gu Yunting was sure that if he really dared to leave the country with his mother, no one in the Gu family would be left alive. At the beginning, he was almost killed just because he was pursuing Murong Shui and played a little trick. Now, it would be strange if Li Chen really let them go after his father caused such great harm to Li Chen's relatives. Finding Li Chen was just a gamble. Since he was going to die anyway, he might as well gamble on Li Chen's conscience. At least, The Li Chen he studied later was the kind of person who would not offend others if they did not offend me. The Gu family certainly had many hateful things, but it was not to the point of exterminating the family. Now, he made the right bet. Li Chen gave Gu Qingfeng a decent death and made Gu Qingfeng give up struggling. If his father was still struggling at that time, Li Chen would definitely catch all the relatives of the Gu family. Gu Yunding didn't want those people to be involved. Dim Mingxing agreed to accompany him to set up the game, but he didn't expect Gu Qingfeng to be so determined in the end. However, he did not regret it. At least, Gu Qingfeng now bears most of the responsibility, and the remaining responsibility is borne by Gu Yunding, which can be regarded as an explanation to everyone. Dim Mingxing took a deep breath and said, "This is what Li Chen asked me to give you. The rest of Gu's assets are gone. Li Chen only took the part that they deserved, and left the rest to you. The money is not much, only more than 10 billion. Gu Yunding shook his head and said, "Leave 100 million for my mother, and for the rest of the money, please ask Uncle Gu to deal with the compensation of those people one by one in the name of our Gu family. If there is any extra, Uncle De will take it himself." "Yunding, is your Uncle De that kind of person?" Dim Mingxing frowned. "Uncle De, I know you are not that kind of person, but after all, it takes too much time and manpower and material resources to handle this matter well, and you can't put all your mind on dealing with the unfinished work of our Gu family." Gu Yunding sighed, "Thank you, Uncle." Dim Mingxing sighed heavily and said no more. After the visit, Dim Mingxing immediately started to deal with it. The mess left by the Gu family requires a lot of time to deal with, and a month may not be enough. As for Gu Yunding, this child seems to have grown up overnight. He is much calmer than Gu Qingfeng in looking at and handling things. 10 years of imprisonment is a pardon for Gu Qingfeng and the Gu family, and it is also an explanation to the outside world. The once 100 billion empire has now completely collapsed. It is not just Gu's that has collapsed, but also several pharmaceutical companies, which have cooperated with Gu's. These pharmaceutical companies have been thoroughly investigated and are basically going to be cold. On the internet and in reality, people are talking about this now. One is Gu Qingfeng's apology video and suicide, and the other is Gu Yunding's 10 years in prison, and then announced that all the remaining money of Gu's will be taken out as compensation, and the compensation work will be handled by a special person. Gu's finally did something decent. Yes, they still have some conscience, at least they know to pay compensation. Gu Yunding was in prison for 10 years. I'm afraid that Gu's will have no place after he comes out, right? It's good to be in prison. Only 10 years is a bargain for them. Now, whether it's online or in reality, everyone hates Gu's to the core. If it weren't for Gu's, no one would be in this situation. Gu Qingfeng's apology finally made Zhao Dezu's injustice cleared. But even so, it still caused irreparable losses and impacts to Zhao Dezu and others. Although Gu's collapsed now, it also left huge hidden dangers. Although many people are receiving treatment now, because Gu's made too much trouble, it is still difficult for Li Chen and his team to accept the snow-melting cream they produced. The main reason is that they were deceived too badly by Gu's, which made everyone full of doubts and resistance to such products. And at this time, Murong Shui summoned reporters alone. This is also the first time Murong Shui has appeared after such a long time. No matter if they had scolded Murong Shui in the past or liked her in the past, they could not help but pay attention to her now. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Murong Shui, who did not attend the event in fancy attire, was wearing very cool clothes. When she appeared in front of the world, no one expected that Murong Shui would lift up her clothes in public and show her belly. I know that many people don't believe in this kind of product. I am not deliberately promoting it because it is made by my husband. Murong Shui pointed to her belly boldly and said, "My original intention has not changed. This time, I just want to show everyone that the Swearung cream is not a scam. If you don't believe it, you don't have to use it." If you believe it, please give it a little kindness. You will see whether it works in 3 days at most. Goose was the same at the beginning, but it harmed hundreds of thousands of people. What can't you do to make money? That's right. In the end, we are the ultimate victims. We believed in you guys at the beginning, but who took us seriously? Countless people are questioning. Murong Shui bowed slightly and said, yes, everyone is the victim, and I will not defend them. Today, every word I, Murong Shui, said in front of everyone is useful. As long as it is the Shui Run cream jointly produced by Li and Zhao, it must be effective and have no side effects. If there are any problems, I will punish you 10 times the amount. My words are always valid. In addition, the development and sale of Shui Run cream are supervised by various departments. If the genuine products you buy have side effects, we will compensate you. Then Miss Murong Shui, do the Li Group and Zhao Group agree with your words?